27th, 2024 meeting of the Lake Forest Park City Council. And let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Paula, will you lead us?
Oh, goodness.
You're right by the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My victory chant. You do.
Do I have a motion for adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a move, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. The motion passes. Now it's time for public comment. The council will not be accepting online public comments, so let's see who has signed up to speak. Thank you very much. Before we start public comment, I want to just explain that this portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council on agenda items or any other topic the council might have purview or control over. If the comments are of a nature that the council does not have influence or control over it, then the presiding officer may request the speaker to suspend their comments. The council may direct staff to follow up on items brought up by the public. Comments are limited to a 3-minute time limit. So with that, our first speaker is John Drew. Would you come forward, John?
Good evening.
Welcome.
It would be one thing if the permanent environmental damage that we will witness with the Sound Transit BRT project will yield some greater good for LFP or our North Sound neighbors. It won't. The expected minimal gain will be more than a race for 372 riders going to UW in the same way 522 express riders had to endure the time and hassle of 2-seat rides to get downtown. I hope the council will develop effective strategies beyond just writing another letter. LFP will lose nearly 400 trees comprising over 5 acres of tree canopy. This includes at least 50 landmark trees. I won't go over the many benefits of tree canopy, but please consider that these trees have significantly higher value since they are adjacent to a major roadway and anchor a steep slope. A conservative estimate from iTree reveals that this destruction will sacrifice 350 pounds of pollution removal each year and will lose 185 tons of carbon storage and 5 tons of carbon sequestration. The trees have a value of well over $1 million. Trees will be replaced by over an acre of new impervious surfaces. Aside from worsening the well-documented heat island problem, the removals will release an additional runoff equivalent to 1 million bathtubs. Many like me living at the base of that hill already have stormwater intrusion problems. It is not at all clear that Sound Transit is providing sufficient remediation following the removal of 90,000 tons of dirt and debris that will turn this evergreen city gateway into a concrete corridor with constant graffiti as a reminder of encroaching urban decay. Even if Sound Transit planned to replant trees in the right-of-way, it would take many years for replanted trees to provide the benefits of the mature trees that will be removed. I am among the 20% of LFP residents 65 years of age or older who will likely never see benefits of the mature canopy that will be lost at the start of this project. Worse yet, replanting out of our community will mean a lasting net loss. Please don't allow Sound Transit to inflict this permanent damage to our community by strongly advocating for no bat lane from 153rd to 165th, merely 0.6 miles. Barring that, ensure adequate remediation in LFP, enforce the 2023 ordinance amendments, tree ordinance amendments, and don't let Sound Transit get away with buying tree credits outside of LFP that will have no benefit for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, Jeff Snedden. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here again. I'm not sure everyone else is, but
I want to thank the council in particular for allowing CORE to make a presentation last Tuesday concerning Sound Transit and for considering once again a letter to the key Sound Transit board members and staff about our plight. But a letter alone isn't going to achieve much, I'm afraid. We've done this before and it didn't achieve any real meaningful results, unfortunately. We're nearing the end of the road that leads to only one place, our main roadway torn up and disfigured, inequitable and permanent environmental and aesthetic damage to our community that provides no real advantages to bus riders heading home from the South Shoreline Light Rail Station during the afternoon rush hour. Sound Transit wants to solicit bids before April 2025. Our time is running out. I wanted to let you know what CORE is considering, the organization that I'm part of, which will not be successful without the full support and active participation of the council. We call it the Raise the Roof campaign, but it won't be successful without your support. For example, we would like to have the council set up face-to-face meetings with key Sound Transit board members and staff where the city and CORE can review the paper we put together that showed there's no real meaningful benefit to bus riders. We'd like to have the council set up face-to-face meetings with key reporters. I have Mike Lindblom in here, and I think also the Urbanist reading the recent article. It would be good to provide them with some meaningful and information. Have the council support our citywide Raise the Roof campaign. CORE plans to invite as many residents as possible to rally in front of City Hall sometime late in August or in the middle of September and walk Bothell Way from Town Center to 153rd. We will support this with citywide mailers to every household in Lake Forest Park and by enrolling supportive local businesses. CORE will orchestrate a citywide letter writing campaign to all Sound Transit board members, King County Council members, members of the various Washington State House and Senate Transportation Committees, to our local House and State elected officials. We will leverage our website to try to make this as easy as possible for people to do. We want thousands of replies going out. CORE will also ask for the support of the Lake Forest Park Stewardship Foundation to contact other King County green organizations to make them aware and actively support our efforts. We cannot achieve this ambitious effort without the direct support and coordination with the council. It's our community legacy, the council's legacy, that will impact future generations. That's the risk here. We collectively cannot be successful without the active support of the council, and that's what we're here asking for. Or we shall see the chipper grinders and dump trucks lined up early in 2026. When you meet tonight, we'd ask you to please consider other things that you could do other than writing the letter, which is still a very good thing to do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak? Hearing none, seeing none, public comment is over. Next, we move on to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of adoption of the consent calendar, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The motion passes. Next, we're on to ordinances and resolutions for council discussion. Our first item is Resolution 24-1958, adopting the Lake Forest Park Healthy Streets Initiative, and our city administrator is presenting.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Council. Before you tonight is a draft resolution and map that has been put together through a coalition of council members, Goldman, Riddle, and then Director Perigo, Chief Harden, and our transportation engineering firm to bring forward to you a Healthy Streets initiative. The map that is attached lays out two things. It identifies the streets that are eligible for healthy streets and those that are not. Those that are not are the streets that are colored. Everything else in gray would be eligible for this. Some discussions I've recently had with Councilmember Goldman is we want to make sure that there's an understanding that the streets that are eligible is not a sure thing that the street would meet the criteria. There will be some future criteria. The draft resolution directs staff to come up with criteria on how those will be measured and use this as another tool in their tool belt as they look at traffic calming requests throughout the community. Especially when you get into rights of way where engineering is either infeasible or cost prohibitive. Something outside of, not being able to do chicanes or roundabouts. This would be another option in their tool belt as they review it, that application for traffic calming. As with other traffic calming requests, and as I've mentioned in the past where we have done chicanes and bulb outs, this would require 70% buy-in from the neighborhood. And so that would be put on the neighborhood to go out and petition their neighbors to get those signatures and to have that discussion with the traffic calming group. The traffic calming group would accept that application and then at some future date, set up those neighborhood meetings to talk about the options after they've taken a look at the data. It's anticipated at this point in time that the Healthy Streets designation would be limited to very little infrastructure, mostly signs, maybe some street art's been talked about in the past, but just informing residents that that's a neighborhood where only local traffic, emergency vehicles, delivery vehicles should be going. Otherwise, you should be looking for another route. There's no anticipation at this point in time that this would be something that the police department would enforce. It's more of a neighbors talking to neighbors. And, I think at some point, if we had a lot of problem, we could occasionally have a drive-by to inform people that might be using the right of way too often for other cut-through traffic. That's a quick synopsis. I know that Councilmember Goldman and Riddle probably have some things to add. Director Perigo is here as well tonight. So I'll stand for any questions, but otherwise I think we should open the dialogue and let the council members fill in where I've left off.
Council members, questions or comments?
It's pretty straightforward.
Councilmember Lebo.
Thank you. I'm supportive of this, although I must admit, maybe it's because I just can't read well. The Appendix A, the map, it's not really clear to me which streets are eligible or not eligible.
It's everything that's grayed out. So anything that's in
Well,
color,
there's lots of different grays.
okay, anything that's not colored.
Anything that's not colored
Yes.
Pretty
So
much.
anything that's
It's
not
pretty
purple,
obvious.
green,
Is-
orange, yellow
is eligible.
is eligible.
But why wouldn't you make a cul-de-sac eligible?
No, it's everything that's colored is ineligible.
Did I say it backwards? Sorry.
Yeah, just now you did. Yeah.
So I guess my question is, why wouldn't you make some of those streets that are colored eligible?
I'll
Because
let
thinking
the
is-
council members address that.
Yeah, so I could address that. One of the motivations is to try to make these streets safer by reducing cut-through traffic. And the nature of a cul-de-sac is that people aren't driving a cul-de-sac to get somewhere else. They're, by definition, they are local traffic. And so it didn't seem like this was a solution for cul-de-sacs.
Other questions or comments?
Did that address your concern, Councilmember Lebo?
Yes, although there are some streets here that are colored that are not cul-de-sacs. That are sort of residential streets that would be of benefit. So I'd only ask that you look at the map and just double check it. And I do appreciate the understanding that cul-de-sacs are not in it because they don't have through traffic. I get that part.
And due to my distance from the map, I can't obviously read it or the colors, but some of those, I would look at the identifications as council reviews this for the streets. There's, I think this obviously needs more consideration. I think maybe at a future COW, after you've had time to review the map, ask any other questions of the sponsoring council members. We can bring this back and sit around a table at a COW and go over maybe some of the fine details that you want to change.
Mhm. I agree. Councilmember Furutani.
Thank you. And yeah, I appreciate the map. I'm thinking that perhaps those streets that are kind of grayed out right now could be put into bright red or something like that. And that way it would be much more clear which streets are eligible.
We can ask Councilmember Riddle if she's up for that. If not, maybe one of our consultants could take this over from here and do that work for us.
Councilmember Saunders.
No, I just agree with what you said, Phil, that maybe it would be, there's more discussion that needs to happen and maybe a roundtable discussion with council members just to identify some curriculum and criteria a little bit further.
Yeah, and to one point, as far as criteria, that council members Riddle and Goldman were leaving that to the administration to identify.
Oh, okay.
They wanted to identify the streets as far as the measures. Our traffic engineer would kind of help us with those details.
Okay, I understand.
Yes, Councilmember Goldman.
Yep, thanks. I could provide a bit more context about how this map was generated, and I think we did touch on it at the previous COW, that Councilmember Riddle and we sort of brainstormed along with Director Perigo and Chief Harden what would make these ineligible. It seemed easier to say, let's start with the total pool of all the streets and what do we want to remove. And so each color, like the yellows represent the state highways, the greens represent arterials, purples represent cul-de-sacs, dead ends. And so by taking out the roads that we thought would not be a good fit, then everything else would be potentially. We didn't want, I think feedback we had from the council early on is we didn't want this to be a very didactic, we are telling you what the healthy streets are. We wanted to make sure it was bottom up, that it was members of the community on their streets, and then city staff to look through and say, well, yep, this actually would be a good fit for it. So it's meant, so the map is kind of meant to show where this is possible, and then leave it to the neighborhood, to the residents on those streets to sort of say, yeah, this is something we would like to see. Let's get a petition. But in terms of where, like why those streets are the ones that are colored, some of the criteria we had considered were, arterials are not a good fit because they're meant to have a high volume of traffic. Cul-de-sacs are not a good fit because there is no through traffic. Roads that go past businesses, schools, things like that are not a good fit because again, they're meant for higher volumes. So that's sort of the criteria that we use to rule out what roads would not really be suitable for this.
Councilmember Riddle. We can't hear you. No, we still cannot hear you. No.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Now we
Oh,
can
yeah.
hear you.
Just took a while for it to connect. Yeah, and I think just to add to what my fellow council member was saying, the arterials are defined kind of are defined in the Washington State sort of street categories. So those aren't streets that we have selected ourselves as arterials. So those are designations that exist currently in I think it was a King County GIS map that I looked at. So I think the idea was to try to keep it less where we are coming up with the criteria, and is we can refer to other elements and other areas to use for the designations.
Any other questions or comments? For our council members or for Phil?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
Bring this one
Move
back
on.
up to account.
Yes, we'll move on to the next item. These are ordinances and resolutions for potential action, depending on the will of the council. So first is Resolution 24-1957, authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement for consultant services with Facet for the Phase 2 Lakefront improvements for design, engineering, environmental, and permitting. And this is our third touch. So Corey, welcome. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, so this is third touch asking for authorization. We've updated the budget and the contract to reflect the phasing of up to 600,000 2024, and then with the passing of the budget for the next 2025 and 26 biennium to reflect that. So And we have Amber online if you have any scope questions. But that is all for
Council
tonight.
members, comments or questions? Mr. Lebo.
Just want to express appreciation for the modification for the phasing. I'm good.
Anyone else? Can I get a motion for?
Councilmember
adopt-
Riddle has her hand.
Oh, Councilmember Riddle, I am sorry. I
Thank
wasn't
you.
looking your way.
Under part one, is there a word missing? It says part one is work from contract beginning. So is that going back to this original contract, or I just want to make sure that which contract that is.
Which page are we looking at?
This con-
It's our page 26 in the packet under two compensation. The
Sorry,
scope of
please go ahead.
That would
Attorney
be
Pratt.
a work from contract beginning, the beginning of this contract that you have in front of you. So
Okay.
through December 31st. We couldn't put
Okay.
an exact date because it needs a notice to proceed.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Riddle. Any other questions or comments? Any questions for Amber about the schematic design or so forth? Okay, can I get a motion for adoption of the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, Councilmember Furutani.
I wanted to add my thanks to Ms. McCluskey and the firm for responding to all of our comments, just adding on to what Councilmember Lebo was saying. So thank you.
Any other discussion or comment? With that, we'll go ahead and take the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Can we state the title? We haven't stated the
Yes.
title yet. I just want to be
Yes,
very
I'm
clear.
sorry. It's Resolution 24/1957, authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement for consultant services with Facet for the Phase 2 Lakefront improvements for design, engineering, environmental, and permitting project. That's, so council members, that is what you just voted aye. And there
No,
were
you did mention
nays.
it.
So
You did read it.
as long as you're all okay with that,
Fine.
the motion passes.
Great.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much, Corey. Thank you, Amber. And I want to say thank you very much. It's very exciting to be embarking on this next phase. And we're really glad to continue our partnership with Facet, formerly DCG Watersheds. And we're really looking forward to progress and some money coming in for our waterfront park. Thank you. Okay, with that, we will move on to the next item. 7B, Ordinance 24/1292, adopting the 2021 International Building Code and other construction-related codes. And we're hearing from Calvin, and this is our third touch, I believe, our fourth touch.
Yeah, so I hopefully have explained the codes clearly through the two work sessions we had, and we had a public hearing 2 weeks ago, I think. And I was wondering if there were any questions anybody had. I hopefully have gone through everything that really pertains to Lake Forest Park as far as our adoption of the energy code and the building codes and anything else. Is wondering if there were any questions or
Any
that.
questions or comments, council members? Yes, Councilmember Lebo.
Thank you. I just wanted to express appreciation for the clarity of the explanations that you gave us for the changes in the code. And I found that very helpful. Each time I learned something more and appreciated your patience with us as you explained the changes. Thank you so much.
Anything else, council members? With that, we will move on. Thank you, Calvin. We'll move on to a decision.
Oh, wait.
Wait, I'm sorry. Yes, you have a,
I was going to move that.
Oh, thank
Okay,
you.
all right,
Go ahead.
all right. I'd like to move ordinance 24/1292, adopting the 2021 International Building Code and other construction-related codes.
Second.
Second.
council members, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed to ordinance 24-1292, please say nay. The motion passes. Thank you, council. Now we're moving right along to resolution 24-1956, adopting a purchasing and acquisition policy.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, council members. This is the third touch. We made the slight update for changing it to add the city council authority for contracts above a certain amount. I don't remember off the top of my head, but that's in there now. And here for any questions.
Questions or comments, council members? Councilmember Lebo.
Thank you. I want to express appreciation for acknowledging and responding to our initial request to simplify it, to focus on the policy and let the administration develop the procedures and process to do this, and appreciate the responsiveness to the request. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? With that, I will take a motion for adoption of ordinance or resolution 24-1956. Councilmember Furutani.
I move that resolution 24-1956, adopting a purchasing and acquisition policy.
Second, do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion by the council? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, council. The resolution passes. Moving right along, we have ordinance 24-1290. Phil and Kim are going to talk to us about traffic safety camera amendments.
Thank you. I'm going to keep this short. I have 4 bullet items, and it's just to encapsulate the changes that are within the ordinances before you tonight and for the public. So this ordinance would add cameras for speed violations on state highways that are also classified as city streets for RCW 4724. As we discussed the other night, this is Bothell Way and Ballinger Way, and there's a process that WashDOT goes through every year to classify those streets as such. It updates references to RCW following the last legislative session. It amends the presumption to include all allowable traffic camera types, just not our red light cameras and our school zone cameras. And that includes a provision to reduce penalty amounts by 50% for recipients of public assistance through WIC. So those are the changes within our traffic camera ordinance. Any questions for myself or the city attorney?
Council members, questions or comments? Are you sure? Going once, going, oh, Councilmember Riddle, sorry.
Phil, just to clarify, the exemption is for WIC and Medicaid eligible individuals?
not. And I may have stated that the other night. If you read the language in the ordinance, it specifically states that it does not apply to Medicaid.
Got it. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions or comments? Council members, yes, Councilmember Goldman.
If not, I'll go ahead and move ordinance 24-1290, traffic safety camera amendments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Yes, Councilmember Furutani.
I just wanted to thank the staff, both Administrator Hill and Attorney Pratt, and of course the mayor for all the work they've put into this. I know there's a lot of moving parts, and it's really hard to keep a track of a lot of this stuff. And do want to express my appreciation for keeping up with all of it.
Good comment. Okay, any other comments before we move to the vote? All those in favor of approving ordinance 24-1290, traffic safety camera amendments, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The motion passes and the ordinance is approved. Thank you very much. Now, moving to council discussion and action, we have the possible letter to Sound Transit regarding the bus rapid transit project on State Route 522. And you have, I was going to say a red line copy, but it's a blue line copy with some modifications based on early feedback and editorial. Oh, yes, Councilmember Lebo.
Thank you, Mayor. Deputy Mayor, pardon me. I wish to recuse myself from the discussion of this. I am a Sound Transit employee. And while I do not have a direct conflict of interest, I want to avoid any appearance of interest. So I will recuse myself from the discussion. And if the council chooses to take action on submitting a letter, I ask that the council recuse myself from that letter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Lebo, and appreciate your doing that and clarifying that point. So just to bring us up to speed, following our discussion at the COW and the information that we saw, a letter was put together and some edits were made just early today that show up in blue. And so I will open it up to discussion at this point from council members and thoughts on how you would like to proceed, whether you are interested in approving the letter at this time or having further discussion. One thing I want to mention, I have asked the city administrator and our public works director to look into the possibility of having a conceptual design or schematic design of the BAT, no BAT, BAT proposal. So, because I do think with people who don't know our community, it will be a lot easier if we have a schematic design or conceptual design, something fairly simple. I'm hoping it will be pretty straightforward because at two ends, it's simply the Sound Transit 90% plan. Anyway, that's my hope and expectation, but we have not gotten that word back yet. So the reference to an attached diagram or schematic is has been deleted for that reason. So with that, I'll open it up for questions, comments, and thoughts on next steps. Councilmember.
Thank you, Mark Hoffman, for letting us know that the 153rd station is going to be on the south side of the street in front of Davy Tree. So for those that don't read their emails.
Councilmember Furutani.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I just wanted to express my appreciation for the drafting of the letter. I think it's really complete. It was leaked earlier. Some of you may have seen on the Urbanist, which was kind of awesome, I thought. And it led to the extreme view that local jurisdiction over such matters should be completely taken away and given to Sound Transit, which I thought was a little bit of an overreach. But nevertheless, my point being that I am very much in favor of letting Sound Transit know what the effects on our community are going to be. I think it's a valid way to basically make our point. Referring to some of the comments that were made earlier in public comment, I don't know that we can actually set up facilitate these face-to-face meetings. Nevertheless, other groups may be able to do so. I've always felt it somewhat unfair that we've never had representation on the Sound Transit Board, no matter how many times we've asked. And it's because we're lumped in with both Shoreline and Seattle for that quote Northwest King County seat. And until such the design of that board changes, I don't think we're ever going to have this voice, leaving us with very few options except things like this letter to make our points known. And so I'm very much in favor of sending this letter.
Thank you. Others? Councilmember Goldman.
Yeah, thanks. I want to express my appreciation. I'm not sure exactly who drafted, but it was a very quick turnaround, so I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't see this as us meddling with Sound Transit. The Sound Transit, it's us providing suggestions, which we've been providing going back to the 60% design, ways to try to maintain as much of the transit benefits as possible while also trying to mitigate some of the harsher environmental impacts. So I see it as trying to open up a dialogue with Sound Transit about how they can still deliver a BRT project in a way that achieves nearly all of the benefits in my opinion, a relatively modest modification to their design. So I don't see that as meddling personally. So I'm in support of the letter.
Thank you. Other council members?
I just echo what Larry just said.
Councilmember Riddle?
Thank you. I still have concerns about some of the language that we've sort of been dealing with around disproportionate impacts, adding the transit time benefits as aptly stated by our community member, that we're not engineers, we're not traffic engineers. And so some of these elements that I think are overreaching what we are able to say, or is less genuine than I think we would want to be. I mean, yes, we do have disproportionate impacts right now, but that's because those impacts have already been made to our neighboring cities for the most part. So, and then I guess I'm struggling with signing on as this is our concept that we would be proposing when we don't have a map. We don't quite know how everything might work. It just feels premature. So for those reasons, I can't support this very specific letter.
Thank you. Other council members? Councilmember Good.
I'm in support of the letter, and I do believe that now is the time to present whatever we can to make our point heard. And I also think that trying to set up meetings with key people at Sound Transit is critical. And I don't know of any reason why we couldn't. It's all it takes is a request. And I think that they would agree to meet. So I'm for this letter, and I'm supportive of trying to meet with people, because it's hard to look at somebody in their face and ignore them. Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Saunders.
I agree with what Councilmember Good has said about how now is the time to move forward with this before we lose momentum. Not that we would lose momentum, but we definitely, I feel like things are really going forward and kind of on fire, if you will. So, and I also feel like from everything that I've heard from people and read, our neighborhood, our Lake Forest Park along our section of this road is more affected than any of the other cities like Bothell and Kenmore, et cetera, because we have a higher residential district along this route, and so many more people will be affected in so many different ways. So I feel like now is the time to meet with the Sound Transit officials and to go ahead and move forward with the letter. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? I also will take off my meeting chair and put on my council member chair and say I'm in support of sending this letter. I think and also trying to schedule meetings, which honestly will probably not occur till late July, if you really think about realistic scheduling, if then, maybe early August. And so hopefully we will have a schematic design, conceptual design by that time. If not, I think we can use existing plans and show it's not that complicated. That just won't have the engineering kind of imprimatur. So I am in support of taking advantage of this moment, because I'm concerned if we wait too long, the time will be too late actually to have any influence. I also agree this is not meddling, because I think these are very real, factual, and very real environmental and community impacts. So I think the next question is we have one recused council member and one council member who has legitimate concerns and objections. So it seems to me we could proceed one of two ways. We could have a vote to approve the letter as an action of the council, and noting that it wasn't, a unanimous decision, or we could have a letter that individual council members sign onto. It is written to say as elected representatives, so it is written fairly broadly. The mayor has indicated his interest to me in signing on to the letter as well. So just to lay out those options, what do you think? What's the will of the council? Councilmember Riddle?
I think if we opt to have just council members that wish to sign on, mayor that wishes to sign on, I think we should change the language towards the end where it says the city of Lake Forest Park is now formally proposing. I think it could be the electeds of the city of Lake Forest Park is now formally proposing. If we opt to go to a full council vote, then we maybe can leave that language. But my preference is that we go with individuals signing on and then changing that language a little bit. So that would be a little bit up above where you're at right now, Matt. So next page up. Where is it? Okay, no, where are we? I was just reading it.
It's
Under the
bottom-
circumstances, the
bottom
last
of page
paragraph.
2, the last paragraph on page 2,
Mhm.
I believe,
Under the
where it says the
circumstances.
city of Lake Forest Park is now formally proposing.
Yeah. Without a full vote of the council, that would have to get adjusted.
Right. That is a legitimate point. So
Mhm.
other council members, would you rather do individual signatures or have a vote?
I'd prefer a vote.
Yes.
At this point, I'm leaning towards individually signing on because I do think like we know these streets, but I think being able to put a map on it to basically explain where, I think there's a lot of value in that. So I would like to see that map and then we can sign on individually. I'm supportive of the letter. I just think getting a visual map on there is important.
It could take a while. So are you saying, could I, point of clarification? Are you saying you would sign on as an individual council member today, but before there was an official vote of the council, you'd like to have the map? Is that what I'm trying
I
to
would-
figure out what you're saying.
I would most likely vote yes if there was an official vote tonight. I just think the letter would be more powerful if there could just be some sort of graphic explaining where we would propose it being a bat lane and where we would propose putting in the queue jumps.
Even if it was a drawing as opposed to an engineering drawing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah, Councilmember Riddle can attest to when we were doing the Healthy Streets, she did a very professionally designed Adobe map. And I basically just cut and paste Google Maps into Paint and drew on it. So I'm not saying we should do Paint, that's a little too informal, but just something that's not super formal to explain, hey, this is the area of the project that we're proposing it be modified.
Councilmember Saunders.
What would be involved in getting a map to have a
I
more
have a
visual
map.
to go along with the,
Yes.
Oh.
Phil.
So I've already engaged one of our consulting engineers. I took the bulleted items out of this letter and sent them to that as their scope of work of where we want to see bat lanes versus queue jumps, et cetera. And have asked them for, do they have the capacity, their timeline, and the cost to the city. I got confirmation today with Matt's help. We got them into the Sound Transit 90% drawings, so they will be getting back to us in short order.
I will say the city administrator previously told me 3 weeks would be fast.
Oh.
So I think that is why I took out the reference to the attached design, but thought that we could have a 1-2 step process. Councilmember Good.
I have a very simple map that shows the whole roadway. It's in color and it shows the area, just the area of where the bat lane would be it's circled. So I do have that I can provide you. I'll do that.
Yes, Councilmember Furtani, give
So-
us some clarity on how we should proceed.
I don't know if this is going to give you clarity, but I want to propose a hybrid solution where individual council members sign on to this letter as is, since you did remove the reference to the map. And also with the understanding there would be the modification to that last paragraph on the second page. And then once the drawing comes in, which might be a month, revisit this and see if we can't get more buy-in from all the council members and be able to take a vote on it and send a unified letter.
So how does that sound? Council members, can you just nod your head or say yes if it sounds like a good
That
approach to you?
sounds,
Yeah.
I like that.
Councilmember Riddle, are you okay with that? Okay, so we will do that. We will make the change to the last paragraph on page 2, so it doesn't say the city of Lake Forest Park. It says the elected representatives, or we, something, one or the other, whatever flows better. And we will have individual signatures on the letter and then come back and when we have a drawing, and I think Councilmember Good, if you could share that in the meantime with the council members, that would be very good, because perhaps before we get all the signatures on this letter, we can circulate that and it will be good enough for now till we have an engineering design that we could vote on.
I'm going to send this to Matt right now.
Very good. Thank you very much. Anything else, council members, or are we closing out this discussion? I have to say, I appreciate the discussion. I do think that contrary to what the urbanist is saying, we're addressing real issues and suggesting real solutions. And as someone who used to run public processes for big construction projects, I just find it surprising that there isn't more dialogue on the fundamental alternatives. It is out of sync. And my experience was with major, hundreds of mile long power transmission lines. So not that different in some ways in terms of impacts on people's property and so forth. So,
Okay,
Oh.
so
Oh.
Matt has it. He can pin
okay.
it.
Thank you. Oh, Councilmember Furtani.
Thank you. And I wanted to ask a question of Attorney Pratt, just to make sure that this is okay. So the idea of council members individually setting up facilitating meetings with individual Sound Transit board members, is there any statute or anything that prevents us from doing that in our official capacity?
No, there's nothing that prevents you from doing that. You, as council members, you are acting for the body as one, unless you explicitly say I'm here on my own. So I think that would be the key, is if you are meeting one-on-one with someone, you have to know you are representing the council as a whole. So I think you'll all need to decide on the parameters of those conversations so that you can represent each other well.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I appreciate the clarity, and who knows, by the time we actually have the meetings, we might be in a different position as well. So, okay, thank you all very much. I appreciate your patience with this, and it is a tough and sensitive issue that we face. So much appreciated. With that, other business, is there any other business from the council? So I have one item myself, putting on my council member hat, and that is, I am proposing to step down from the planning commission. And I was wondering if there are members of the council who would be interested in stepping into my role as liaison to the planning commission. Councilmember Lebo.
Thank you. I am available if the council so wishes to be the liaison to the planning commission. I was previously on the planning commission and for several years was the chair of the planning commission.
Anyone else want to put their hat in the ring?
I would offer that if someone else wishes to do it, I have no feelings about being that liaison if someone else wishes to do it.
I will say it is a very good time for a transition because the Planning Commission is in the process of moving to an open house, and then it will be followed by them having a public hearing. And the open house is July 16th. So I've been privileged to be part of the conversation, so I have a little background as we go forward when the deliberations come to the council. So I've appreciated it, but it's a good time for me to step away and let someone else do it. I've been doing it for a few years, so. Okay, with that, is there a motion to appoint Councilmember Lebo to the Planning Commission as a liaison to the Planning Commission? Sorry. Yes, Councilmember
All right.
Furtani.
I move that John Lebo be appointed the liaison to the Planning Commission for the city of Lake Forest Park.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Yay.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna ask for the nays. Okay, with that, council committee reports, council member reports. Yes, Councilmember Goldman.
Last night I attended the Racer Principal Assembly meeting. We got some updates from Brooke about how Racer's doing. There's a couple of things I want to highlight. It seems like this year they're on track to serve more than double the number of calls that they served last year. Thanks in large part to now being fully staffed. So that's really good to hear. Also, their long-term plan remains that right now they're attaching themselves to existing 911 calls where police are involved. The long-term goal is to get to a point where there's going to be some subcategory of calls where two Racer mental health professionals can respond by themselves without needing the police. Much in the same way that 911 can dispatch fire by itself to a call, or it can dispatch an ambulance by itself, that there would be an opportunity to dispatch mental health professionals by themselves to a call. So that's a long-term plan. And the executive board is currently working through their budget. That's going to come to us because each of the 5 cities will need to adopt their portion of the Racer budget. So we'll be seeing more of that later this year.
Thank you very much. I am glad you were able to attend. I had a conflict, but I was very disappointed because I thought it would be interesting and good to show support. I did note that from the city administrator's report, how many of the city police calls involve some form of mental health issue. It's really, really notable. So we're lucky to have Racer.
Oh,
Councilmember Riddle.
Thank you. I attended the NUSA general membership meeting yesterday, and we had a couple presentations around aging and aging within our communities, and some really interesting pieces of information that are showing that the percentage of our community that will across King County and across the United States is going to be staying older and healthier longer. And there's a trend now in understanding that just because you hit a certain age may not mean that you're actually needing all the services. You could still be working, you could still, so there's now a lot more complexity when we're dealing with individuals that we normally consider in that aged over 60 sort of category. So things are getting more complicated. Services are having to respond in more complicated ways to the needs as they vary. In addition to that, there's kind of 5 areas that will need to be addressed in order to sort of address this change in our demographics. And obviously for us, public policy changes is one piece that we actually have an influence on. Focusing on extending those healthy lifespans in the medical field and how to tackle that. And the diversification, you have, it's not really a monolithic group anymore, the way it perhaps was back in the 60s. And then changes in the marketplace involving services or retirement facilities, that's really getting more attention. It's no longer the beige rooms. It's, so there's a lot more marketing happening because there's more of these individuals. And of course, we'll all recognize changes in the workforce. They're staying healthier longer, they're staying in the workforce longer. And so creating age-friendly workplaces is another area. So I think for us, thinking of the public policy changes and how we can support this new growing demographic. And then I was going to say right now, there's a projected number of people aged 85 plus in King County. 2020, it was about 37,000. By 2040, they're looking closer to 100,000. So you can see that population is skyrocketing, and they will need to have places to live, and they will need services. So just something for us to think about. It was a wonderful presentation from the City of Seattle Human Services Department, and then the North Shore Senior Center.
Thank you. Councilmember Furutani, did you have your hand raised previously?
I withdraw my hand.
Oh, okay. Anyone else with a council member report? Mayor's report? The mayor isn't here, so.
I'm not going to speak on behalf of the mayor.
City administrator.
City administrator report. I just have a few things to add to the report tonight. Just want to let council know that the RFQ for the levy consultant will be issued on Tuesday, July 2nd. I've set up a schedule where we will go through consultant interviews, possible interviews. I'm going to be reaching out for a couple of council members to join the selection committee on that. And looking to bring a contract in September for council consideration on that. So stay tuned. It's going to get busy. We're also, I don't have this on my list, but we're also starting in the next couple of weeks, the guild negotiations, and following that as well, we will have Teamsters, we will have budget. So buckle up. 178th Street traffic cameras, you took action tonight. That ordinance needs to be published, and due to that time frame with the holidays and the administrative office of the courts requiring some testing be done, actual citations will not begin being issued until July 15th, just so that everything can be in order. So a little bit of a delay, but we do have the signs going up that the judge had requested, 24-hour enforcement, just to ensure that people understand that it's not just school hours anymore for that stretch on 178th. And then the last item I have, it's found out Tuesday that Sound Transit is looking to be in CEO recruitment in July. So, and the interim is hoping that that's not a year-long process. So that's all I've got.
Bill, just a question. So to confirm, people who are violating are still getting warnings. They're just not getting official citations. Is that correct?
Correct. And we're seeing roughly 290 of those violations a day. And on the weekends, the last weekend was 750 for the weekend. So and that's, you're going at least 6 over, but I think the mayor said the average is about 33.5 that they're seeing per ticket. So
Wow.
in a 25-mile-an-hour zone.
Wow.
So stay tuned for
Sounds
future.
like it's a no racing zone.
Yeah. There will be staffing issues that come out of this related to police and courts. So we'll address those at a future date.
Well, my hope is once the real citations start issuing that, the recidivism rate will drop and the numbers will drop. So certainly, I'm hoping we hit a more reasonable plateau to reflect safer driving. Not to mention staffing, so. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? And if not, we will break now and go to executive session. Executive session will last 20 minutes. 20 minutes for executive session? 30 minutes for executive session. Executive session is for consideration of the acquisition of real estate purchase or lease pursuant to RCW 4230.110 and other issues.
Are we going down
We have reconvened from executive session on June 27th, 2024, and we have no other business, so our meeting is adjourned.